Absolutely no discussion, in our team group about that. Abhishek, we know, excuse me, is a world-class player. So far in the tournament, luckily, there's been guys standing up with Abhishek, obviously not scoring the runs he would like. But we go into a very important phase of the World Cup now, and I'm pretty sure he's gonna deliver. Not so much just for the team, but also for for all the viewers watching the game, because he's entertaining, and we love to see that. So I'm pretty sure he's hitting the ball well in the net. It's just a matter of getting that start and getting his innings going. One thing that we work hard on is our fielding. We know the importance of the catches. Wherever we can cut down angles, to stop the twos, to stop any boundaries. But catching is definitely going to play a big part now in the business end of the tournament. And unfortunately, no catch is an easy catch, and the boys are putting the yards in and catching a lot of balls. But that's definitely one of our key focus points, is to really even go for those 50-50 ones. Because we know how that can swing and break the momentum of a batting innings. Yeah, definitely. We discuss options in terms of how we're going to approach our bowling innings against different teams. I think it's important to stay awake and to keep on looking for ways that we can strike better, and where we can have guys attacking specific batters. That's good game awareness. Looking forward to this game on Sunday. We know that their top order gives them that momentum. Quinton and Aiden up front is in good form, and they're hitting the ball very well. So we will definitely put our best foot forward to try and get those early wickets up front. That's always the plan, but it's how we go about things. And that for me is getting the ball in the right area, is really summing up the conditions quite well. And then from there, be tactically smart in terms of how we go with our field setting. So there's a lot going into that. But in terms of staying one step ahead, being prepared, I can promise you we leave no stone unturned with that. With Shivam, I think any bowler, we like confidence. You want to feel the backing. And, this journey started almost more than a year ago, where we've given him responsibility to bowl for us in Dubai. I can take you back to Dubai to bowl the first over. And I think as soon as you feel in that environment, or you feel that you get backed by first the captain, the coach, the staff, from there life becomes a little bit easier. You don't have to try and prove yourself. You don't have to try too hard. He's got a lot of skill with the ball, with variations. I believe when I catch to him, he hits the mid quite hard. And for him, it was just a matter of building that confidence and then polishing up when to use his variation. I think he's he has a very good understanding of conditions. He can read the conditions very well. And as a power hitter, himself, he will work out what is the hardest and toughest ball to bowl. So I think having that game sense and just giving him the backing and to say, listen, if you go for the boundary, it's okay. You're a potential guy that can pick that wickets for us. You can bring us control with the ball in terms of his execution is very good. And we slowly just developed that and gave him the confidence. And there were some times where I could see him walking off the field, disappointed not having a bowl, and that for me was great. Great to see. He's hungry to do that. So credit to him for working hard on his game and wanting to improve that all-round part of his game, because it's important. It gives us options. If the ball is skidding on for the spinners and the spinners are under pressure, he's a perfect guy to come up and bowl 2 overs. So it's a nice luxury to have him confident and bowling well. Conversation with the spinners. It's a pretty straightforward one, to be honest with you. I think they've been so successful in IPL. They know their art. They know their craft. For us, for me, it's just important to keep on putting the work behind the scenes of video footage. Okay, looking at how players potentially gonna match up against them, how they're gonna play. just to keep on freshening up those ideas, because these guys play so much against each other. It is important to try and find that 1, 2, 3% where you can start your bowling innings. How am I going to finish my over? What is the batter looking to do against me? So if I can keep that thinking part of the spinners still operating, and for them to be sharp and to be ready for the next play, the skill is there, the execution is there. So it's just about that alertness and just trying to be one step ahead in terms of what's going to come. It's obviously a strike bowler for us. He's done really well in the World Cup so far, and even before the World Cup, he's a go-to guy for us with Bumrah, with all those other guys other bowlers that can take wickets. But also you need guys to set the tone up front. You need your other 3, 4 guys to create that pressure, to bowl together in partnerships for Varun to really be I wouldn't say effective, but to help him out. It's like a top order batter. I think sometimes he also feels the pressure that he wants to try too many things, and he wants to be the guy to break the partnership or to put us on the front foot, to give us that momentum. And it's important to have those conversations for him, to just not to try and rush it. Things will happen if he lands the ball, if he bowls the right pace. So it's also important for him to understand that he's not alone on the field. And I think that's been good for us so far, to get that bowling group, a unit around him, and they work well together. In terms of his preparation, he's a student of the game, I can say that. He's one guy that will do extra work analysing batters. He's very specific on the video footage when we do what this batter is going to do. He asks us a lot of questions. So I think he's like a student that walks into the room and he's prepared for the test match, and he goes out for the test and he goes out and writes the test, and he's passing those tests more than other times. But saying that, well organised, well planned guy, trains well, trains specifically, for certain batters he wants to target. So very professional about the game. That's been sort of the makeup of a team going into the World Cup. We were going to be heavy with left-handers, but if you look at those left-handers, they are aggressive players. And I think, those bowlers will have sleepless nights bowling to them. That's the way we set up at the moment. I do feel, once we get going again, we find that flow that we're going to put bowling units under a lot of pressure. So yes, I'm pretty sure they're going to do a lot of planning. They'll think of ways to take the ball away from the left-handers up front. But at the end of the day, I think we've got enough skill there, with those guys to come up and take those challenges on. And in terms of myself and Albie, I saw him now when I arrived at the ground briefly. Good to see him, but yeah, we haven't spoken much, to be honest, since the warm-up game in Navi Mumbai. The most important thing is yes, there's a blueprint. Plan A is we want to take spin on. The mindset is to put pace off the ball. We want to put that under pressure. But I think the smart way is also to sum up the conditions and play those moments quite well. To be honest, I think on the surfaces we've played so far, it wasn't the easiest wickets to hit pace off the ball. We tried that in Mumbai, found ourselves in trouble. So I think that the important thing is that we know we can always, if we have some sort of platform, we can catch up at the back end. And to credit to the team that yes, we maybe haven't dominated spin as we would have liked, but that's around the corner on the surface that we find our flow, like I said earlier, that will happen. But I think the good thing for me is that we are scoring well in those periods, and then we still get posting the 200s, the 190s on the score, on the board, which with our bowling unit, we know that will give us a great opportunity to defend. So in saying that, I think the conversation in the dressing room was to more play that little phase slightly better, and then from there we can reset and say, okay, listen, we're going to pull the trigger at a certain whatever over that might be, and then the guys will kick on. But give us that base to launch from. Yeah, it was a perfect opportunity to give. Was she an opportunity to play? Obviously, coming back from injury. So yeah, I can say that he passed that game with flying colours. Recovered well the next day. So again, that now leading into the Super 8s now gives us a lot more options in terms of combinations and ways we can set up and go with. Looking forward to in the tournament. Credit to the curators for, like you say, so late in the season, still producing wickets that are 200 plus surfaces. It's a nightmare. I can think of being a job of everybody wanting certain expectations of the fans, high scoring games. There's a lot of pressure on those guys. They put a lot of hard work into giving us the best surface that that they can possibly prepare. And I still think till this day it's very hard to say a wicket is going to play this way. I think we're all always standing. We've got some sort of ideas. There's moisture. There's a little bit of it looks a little bit dry. It will hold or skid on. But in terms of controlling the wicket and saying this is how it's going to play, it's very hard to call that bang on. So that's why for me it is so important that you have guys that one can sum up the conditions quite well. But the importance of that is to then communicate what is a pass score, what is the type of balls that we want to bowl here on the surface. And I think so far this tournament we've done that really well, with batting and bowling. Bar the one game the first game where I think, it wasn't a 200 plus surface, it was maybe a 170 surface, and we went out a little bit too hard at the start. But again, that was the learning. So every game there's been learning so far, and I think that's the beauty about this game, is that there will be learning from the surface every time. Look, I think at the moment they are a team that's full of confidence. They played a fantastic sort of first phase of the World Cup. They've got guys at the top that's in form. So in terms of weaknesses, there aren't many. I think for us it's going to come down on the day of how well we can execute with the bat and ball. The toss is obviously 50-50. You've got no control over that. So you will put that aside and not even make that a focus point. But I think it's going to be world-class players up against each other. The likes of Bumrah to De Kock or Markram and Arshdeep Singh or whoever's going to play. It's going to be a mouth-watering thing. It's a mouth-watering event. I don't think there's on both sides you can point out any weaknesses. It's going to be on the day who can handle the situations better, who can read the conditions well, who can stay calm under pressure, because there will be pressure moments. Who can absorb when a team is sort of off to a flyer with a bat. It's those sort of important parts of the game that we sometimes forget that's going to be key. I think that's part of being a professional in your craft. You're going to face different conditions, different challenges. Some days you're going to have a crosswind, sometimes you're going to have a good surface, sometimes you're going to have a tricky surface. And that's one of the things that you always work on, adaptability. That's why at training, we tell the guys that it's not all about hitting 65 sixes. There's going to be a period that the wicket might be a bit tacky or the wicket might be a bit dry. So can we turn boundary hitting into running more twos? Can we, maybe if the wicket is tricky, can we hit the ball on the ground, scoring fours instead of sixes? So all those things go into our planning, into our preparation. Because you just can't call what the wicket's going to do on the day. So I think that's an important part of that, is to not have just tunnel vision and be one-dimensional. It's going to be a flat wicket. We're going to try and score 300 or 250 every game. Yes, the mindset is there to do that, to have the body language, to have the aggressiveness to take the bowling on, but still have that smartness about how you're going to construct and how you're going to put a score on the board. I think it's crucial. I still think regardless of the wicket, you're still under pressure. We've seen so many times now that batters can mistime the ball and you can still go for six. And yes, if there is something in the surface, you still need to be able to execute and land the ball well. So you're never not under pressure. That's why I like to focus more on how can we deal with that pressure situations. How can we prepare ourselves better to try and be one step ahead, and then from there just trust our execution. But from a bowling, I think if you ask any bowler, all they've ever asked for in white ball cricket or in T20 cricket, is not to be bowling machines and have that little bit of assistance in the surface. So I think it's great for the game that there at times are something in for the wickets, in for the bowlers, and those wickets also provide sometimes exciting games. I like it personally as a fan when I'm at home watching, a wicket. There's a little bit of something in it, how that's going to play out. So at the moment that's what we're receiving in our games, and we just need to make the most of it, because one day you're going to